Act 1, Scene 10. Pedro meets Ines. Ines. Greetings, your highness. I've come as you asked me to report on our gaiety, just as you tasked me. Pedro. From Sancho and Vasco I've heard much invective, but yes, I'd much value to hear your perspective. Ines. Yes, Vasco's the kind that's all peacock and proudness, that seeks to lead men not by wisdom but loudness. Pedro. You've only met once, so how can it be that into his dull soul you so clearly see? To sum up, the man I've 1,000 times tried, but never once heard him be better described. Ines. Yes, he and Sancho were almost two bears in a pit, but Sancho's advantage was his greater wit. They both seemed surprised and a little perturbed when I interjected to piece on them urge. Pedro. That explains the expression on Sancho you left. Why, he jabbered about you much more than the rest. Ines. Please tell him I'm sorry if he felt offended. To undermine him I had never intended. Pedro. I'll tell him you're mortified if you upset him, but I've heaped praise on you because you didn't let him turn your little soiree into a stag circus. I wish I'd have been there. It would have been perfect to see the pair of them both stopped in their tracks, uncertain brains whirring just how to react. Ines. That's enough about me, but I'll say of the night, from our hosts I felt falseness, all didn't seem quite as it should be, as if they were all acting a role, into whose acting they had been cajoled. Each seemed more reluctant to speak of himself than I've ever seen of men anywhere else. On us in Castile all their questions were trained, and all of that interest somehow seemed quite feigned. Pedro. It sounds like the hand of their master my father was holding the baton to conduct this palaver. All things from Castile bring him paranoid rage, including my mother, and he gets worse with age. Your instinct is perfectly fashioned and made to trust nothing last night staged in this charade. Ines. Ferdinand seemed least rehearsed of the four, speaking of the lost wife for whom he sorely mourns. Pedro. Yes, he was quite the romantic back when they were wooing, his choice of a wife not being some other's doing. Ines. You should get to know yours, she has so many sides. She reads and she writes and she hunts and she rides. As an archer hits bullseyes from 25 paces, and has tales from her tours of Iberia's fine places. I urge you to seek how love might find its course. Take her out on the gallops, each saddle a horse. The spirit you'd find in her small female shape could be close kindred to your one, do make no mistake. Pedro. My grandfather, King Dennis, was Portugal's poet, but it's bled from his bloodline till you'd hardly know it. There's so little poetry found in my life, I can barely speak tenderness to my own wife. Ines. There's poetry in life, not just in pages and lines, in the way we all experience our places and times. I first read Dennis's poetry when I was still young. Then my father found out, said I should not have done. He thought it too rich for the mind of a girl, not ready to know how grown men felt in this world. Pedro. How this grown man feels is not how he would want to, and on his dark thoughts he does not like to ponder. Yes, I'm a difficult man with a difficult father, and oh, to be warmer I would so much rather. But something inside of me feels slightly broken. Ines. Life's like a book to enjoy, you must open without preconceptions to see what's to learn, immersing yourself as the pages all turn. Pedro. But my marriage is a plot, have you not realized? By that dullest of authors my father devised. Ines. Every marriage by families and fathers arranged as a means to an end must begin with two strangers, but their futures blank pages are theirs to be filled. What greater defiance than to take up their quills, and as partners in enterprise wrest the control of the narrative authorship, make it their sole. Pedro. A fanciful notion, but you'll not be denied. I'll have 3 horses saddled, and tomorrow I'll ride with my wise counsel Ines, and Constanza my bride. Ines. I'm not the horsewoman that Constanza is. The wife should have her horse, her husband have his. And I'll wait at the stables where the gallops won't tax me. Pedro. No, your presence is required, for it will relax me.